Now that the Thanksgiving holiday is over, it's time to gear up for family parties and get-togethers in December. The stress of coming up with a perfect Christmas or Hanukkah dinner, New Year's gatherings, and just meals for guests and family can stress out a home cook. Our guest is an accomplished cook, journalist, and cookbook author who has pared down the task, and along with it, the stress, of preparing food for large and small groups. Julia Turshen believes in doing a few things very well in the kitchen, and she's written down just how to do that in her new book, Small Victories, Recipes, Advice, plus hundreds of ideas for home cooking triumphs. Small Victories? How did that name come about?
I've always approached life, which is sort of always looking for the small victories, which, could be as simple as getting a really great parking spot. And when it came to choosing a title for my recipes and stories, Small Victories seemed this great way to not only approach life, but also the kitchen. And it also gave me this wonderful organizing principle for the book, because every recipe is introduced by what I call a small victory, which to me is like a tip or a technique or an idea that just makes cooking a little bit more approachable.
With these days of food television, competitive cooking, and new techniques at every turn, Turshen says that home cooks sometimes become overwhelmed at the idea of cooking a meal for family and friends. That's why she's a big fan of learning the basics and practicing until you do them very well.
I just think all the options can be really overwhelming, and what my goal was with Small Victories was to show that all of those options that we see, the millions of recipes, the millions of techniques, they can all sort of be boiled down to just, no pun intended, to a few. And that's why every single recipe has all these variations, what I call spin-offs in the books, that you can see once you know the small victory, the tip or the technique. You can make the one main thing, but you can also make so many other things. And to me, that's just a much easier way to think about cooking, is seeing how one thing can stem from something else, as opposed to them all being separate things.
Take simple biscuits, for example. Turshen says that once you master the ingredients and the technique, any cook can dress a biscuit up or down to satisfy their own tastes and those of their guests, the way she did with her everything biscuit.
They're called everything biscuits because I put all the spices you would normally find on an everything bagel. I put some inside the biscuit dough itself and then some on top. Then I gave a bunch of ideas of other things you can do and different ways you can flavor them and top them. For example, brushing them with maple syrup and putting black pepper, putting cheese in the biscuits and pickled jalapenos for almost like a jalapeno popper biscuit. But then there's other ways you can use the dough itself, and you can make sort of like a really simple kind of chicken stew and then dot the top of the pot with the biscuit dough and cover it, and you have essentially really amazing chicken and dumplings. So that dough is really versatile.
Another technique that Turshen says should be in any cook's repertoire is how to make stock from chicken and other meat bones and scraps. Soup is a simple dish that can be created to satisfy anyone's palate, from those who like simple chicken and vegetables to the more exotic tastes. And it's a quick and easy way to use up leftovers from the holiday table.
It's kind of the framework of a recipe. It's not very specific. And the whole small victory with that recipe is the idea of making homemade stock and then freezing it in single-sized portions. And what I do to do that is put it in a resealable plastic bag and then put the bag flat in the freezer. And then once it's frozen, you can line up the bag. So you almost get this like frozen filing cabinet. And then basically I use those bags of stock to make soup with whatever I have on hand. So it could be, let's say I've got a little bit of leftover cooked chicken and maybe, a leek kicking around in the fridge and maybe some cooked rice. And, I can saute the leek and add the stock, add the chicken, add the rice, and I have delicious like chicken and rice soup that didn't take very much time, because having the stock in the freezer is sort of, I think of it as like money in the bank. It's like you're going to have something good and you can add anything to it.
Soup can be the introduction to a holiday meal, and so can salad. Turshen says that a thoughtful cook will take into account what kind of main course is being served and then tailor the salad to complement it.
Salad to me is like the best accessory for whatever you're cooking. So I think the most important thing is to think about how it's going to complement whatever else you're serving with it. So sometimes, for example, if I'm going to serve, something really rich like a braised meat, like a brisket or something, I really like a crunchy, acidic salad on the side of that. So something that's sort of the opposite, and it's going to be a great complement for it. So maybe, thinly sliced celery and lots of lemon juice. But on the other hand, if you're going to have maybe just some simple roast chicken or something like that, I think a salad that isn't quite as assertive could be a really nice complement.
Side dishes are often the foods that carry a lot of tradition with them at the holidays. Cranberry sauce, sweet potatoes, and green bean salad are a few that show up at more than a few dinners. And Turshen is a big fan of pleasing everyone with their favorites. However, she says that sometimes it's interesting to create a side that's unexpected, like roasted radishes.
If you're someone like me who's always trying to incorporate lots of vegetables into your diet, but you don't want them to be, boring, I think coming around to ideas like maybe roasting radishes, which are normally something you eat raw, and just always thinking of that twist on the familiar is always a really fun way to be in the kitchen. So I love radishes, and I decided to try cooking them instead of serving them raw, and I found that they got really sweet. I mean, like any roasted vegetable, it sort of becomes more concentrated, a little caramelized, and they became this whole other thing. And I thought that was so cool to get something new out of something that didn't seem very new to me. So I think when you're thinking about cooking stuff like that, starting from a place that feels familiar and then adding a little twist to it is always a really good way to go, as opposed to trying to think of something completely brand new.
Trying something new can also work well with a main course. Instead of turkey or ham for the holiday meal, why not a stuffed pork roast? Turshen says it looks difficult, but really couldn't be easier.
If you're looking to not have to do a ton of work but make it look like you did, it's a great recipe. Like if you're looking to impress someone but you don't want to spend all day in the kitchen, it's a pork loin that you sort of flatten out, and then you make this delicious mixture of cream cheese and herbs. You spread that mixture on the pork, and then you roll it up and tie it with a few pieces of string. And I think sometimes when things are filled and stuffed and tied, like it seems really fancy, but I honestly feel like if you can tie your shoe, you can tie a roast, and you just put it in the oven, and that's it. What you get in return is meat that has this sort of spiral of this like really rich, delicious, herby flavor throughout the whole thing.
Finally, Turshen has some advice for cooks who are preparing a meal for a group. Don't stress out over having every dish come off the stove at the same time. She likes to serve some dishes at room temperature, so if the beans are done before the bird, that's fine. Also, making dishes a day ahead and rewarming them can take a lot of pressure off the cook. Just remember how good those leftovers taste when you reheat them the next day. You can find recipes, tips, and tricks for de-stressing your meal preparation in Julia Turshen's new book, Small Victories, available now. She also invites you to visit her website at juliaturshen.com. For more information about all of our guests, log on to our site at viewpointsonline.net. Our show is written and produced by Pat Reuter. Our production directors are Sean Waldron and Reed Pence. I'm Marty Peterson.
Viewpoints returns in just a moment.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield, and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-568-1647. That's 800-568-1647. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-568-1647.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you can donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-835-1478. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to over 50 locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now. Call 1-800-835-1478. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher for donating. Call now, 1-800-835-1478. That's 1-800-835-1478.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of Media Tracks Communications. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook to learn about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on iTunes. Plus, you'll always find podcasts of our segments and information about our guests at viewpointsonline.net. Join us again next week for your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.